this book sucks, man. Hey guys, I'm Tiffany. Welcome to The Book Skeptic. Today I'm talking about every book I read this summer. So with June, July, and August, I ended up reading in total 27 books. So I'm first going to start off with what I read in June. The first 5 books I read were The Risk, Sidetracked, Scarlet Angel, All the Lies, and Paint It All Red, aka the Mindfuck series. So the concept of this series is an FBI agent meets and falls in love with the serial killer he's investigating. Now I did make it sound like he's the main character, but it's actually the serial killer. She's the main character. Now in my opinion, I thought the first 2 books were very boring, but I liked the last 3. For the most part, I enjoyed this series. I would definitely want to read more books like this. The next book I read was Ghosted. This book is a second chance romance between an actor and the single mom he left behind. I wasn't fond of any of the characters. I really wish I had never decided to pick this up. This book was way too long for such a meh plot. The next book I read was Yes Please. This is a memoir from Amy Poehler detailing many aspects of her life. I picked this up because I was solving a puzzle and I wanted something other than music playing in the background. It was interesting to learn about her life, but it was hard to look past some blatantly problematic and offensive takes. Some things are better left unsaid. As in, she shouldn't have shared it. Like, I really don't know why she decided to go full honesty, because sometimes it's like, ooh, I'm not looking at you in a positive way, girl. Next book was Contractually Yours. So this was a forced arranged marriage romance. It was a change of pace for the girl to undermine and force the guy, but he still had way more power than if the roles were reversed. Not a fan. I kept waiting for it to get better, but it never did. Next book I read was 69 Million Things I Hate About You. An executive assistant wins the lottery and pranks her billionaire boss. I really enjoyed their banter for most of the story, but once they got together, the banter disappeared and the story sucked. Oh boy. Oh, no, I don't even really want to talk about this next one. The next one is Liars Like Us. This one, I actually do just want to read the synopsis. It's really short, but like I just want you guys to hear this super vague little bit of information, and then I'll tell you what it's really about. A young woman on the verge of bankruptcy, a mysterious billionaire with an offer that will change her life, an obsession so powerful it could destroy them both. What Callum McCord wants, he takes, no matter what he has to do to get it. And also, before I get into the actual plot of this story, this author refers to this guy as morally gray. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you exactly why he's definitely not. What this book actually is about, this guy completely ruins this girl's life, just so she will agree to marry him. And she forgives him! I really could have like a whole rant on this one, but like, that's just gonna hurt me and I don't want to do it, but this book sucks, man. This is probably one of the most heinous books I've ever read. 0 out of 1,000,000 stars, and to you, Callum. Like, there was not a single time things were going well. He never treated her right. Any of those certain scenes, he treats her even worse there. Like, there's no gain, there's no plus for her to be with him, unless you count money, in which case, just find somebody else, because this was awful. And the worst thing for me is, now I'm sure we all know with romance books, there's groveling. There's the groveling scene when the character messes up. But this guy, after he did he did her so dirty, and he never apologizes. They literally address it, and it's like, are you gonna apologize? And he's like, no. Do you think what you did is wrong? No. I was like, are you kidding me? And it's so frustrating to me because they kind of address the whole thing I was mentioning about morally gray, but also, even though he's a total villain, he's totally evil, no, he's morally gray. And what is morally right anyway, is what they say. And it's like, oh, it was so frustrating. And I'm so mad because I'm pretty sure the only reason I picked this up is I was told, oh yeah, well, this guy's never been with other girls. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of okay. No, this guy's obsessed and he's evil and he's terrible and he should have just died at the end. The fact that he ends up with her is trash. I really could say so much about that book, but like I said, I just don't want to put myself through it, but so frustrating. The next book I read was Getting Lucky number 7. A college student makes a bucket list to change her life by taking risks. Number 7 is to have mind-blowing sex, which her friend is all too keen to give her. I thought there'd be more bucket list activities. I didn't like that the guy only noticed her after she stopped being herself. And it was pretty boring too. Like, I just had this expectation of these bucket list activities, but for the most part, it's just kind of like first act, you get it, and then otherwise it's like, it's just about their relationship, which again, there was nothing to it. It was very surface level and boring, and you didn't even know why they liked each other unless you count attractive people come together, hooray! The next book I read was Corrupt. A girl is targeted by her forbidden crush and his friends, who were sent to jail seeking revenge. I had planned on never touching this, but curiosity got the best of me. This was some seriously messed up stuff. But somehow, it wasn't worse than Liars Like Us. I probably wouldn't have liked this book even... How do you say that? I would have rated it lower, I would have liked it less if I hadn't read Liars Like Us. So, I didn't like it. I probably would have been way harsher and judgier on this story, on the content that was included, if I hadn't just read that way worse book, Liars Like Us. But again, this book was not good, and it had some very stuff going on, messed up stuff. And the last book I read in June was One Last First Date. 3 friends create a pact to marry their next first date. This was so immature, and I didn't like either guy at all. The main character, she didn't deserve her promotion. She wasn't a team player at all. So I was very proud of myself for June. I ended up reading 13 books, which was a new record for me. And so on next to July. The first book I read was Twisted Love. I was pleasantly surprised by this book. The groveling was perfection. I did not appreciate their bedroom scenes. But there were some solid character explorations. The plot wasn't my favorite, but it was a pleasant read. The next book I read was A Cruel Arrangement, and this one, I just feel like you guys just have to hear the synopsis to understand what this book was even about, because I myself, even though I read it, I'm like, wait, what happened in that one? So this book is a passionate story about a man trying to make amends and the woman who makes him want to keep his promises. This was my place, my business, Easter Lanes. Then a guy comes in, trying to rob me, daring to take it away from me. My home, my life. Hell no. I won't let my livelihood be threatened. No one knows what I've done to build this life for myself, except he might. Ashton Walden, a man I remember from when we were kids. Even back then, I could tell how dangerous he would be one day. He's now the head of the Walden Mafia family, and my father is so in debt to them that they practically own him. My dad and I are estranged, and I want nothing to do with him or his debt. But the day after the attempted robbery, I don't wake up in the hospital. I wake up in Ashton Walden's home, and he drops a bomb on me. If I want my livelihood back, I need to earn it back. And thus begins our cruel arrangement. And I found it interesting. The arrangement wasn't actually all that cruel. But I did not like this book at all. It was also so forgettable. Yep. What I wrote down in my notes is pretty much what I already said. Like, honestly, I couldn't tell you what happened in this book. It's like, yeah, it was so nothing. I should never have bothered to pick this up. And the next 3 books I read were Deceitful Vows, Deceitful Lies, and Deceitful Bond, which is the Baronov-Bratva trilogy. I don't know why B&V is giving me some difficulty. So bear with me, I'm trying my best. Bratva bosses aren't supposed to marry regular girls like me. Andrei Baronov is the heir of the Baronov-Bratva, a prince with the world at his fingertips. I was working as a wedding photographer, trying to forget my cheating ex-fiancé, When my path crossed with his, he offered me a chance to escape, throw caution to the wind, and forget my troubles. I never got a chance to tell him my answer when the bullets started flying. He saved me that day, and I thought I'd never see him again, until I found him standing in my kitchen. He's making the same offer to me again, but this time he's not giving me a choice. He's telling me that I'm coming with him. He's telling me that we're getting married. He's telling me that I will say yes, whether I want to or not. Bratva bosses don't marry regular girls like me, which means there's something he wants from me, something he needs, something he's not telling me about. And if I want to find out just what it is, it's going to cost me my body, heart, and soul. Honestly, my notes here are a little long, so I'm just gonna read it off. So, I expected a nicer, more accommodating guy from the synopsis, but nope. This was an absolute psychopath kidnaps girl, textbook, Stockholm Syndrome disaster. I had no intention to continue after book 1, but that cliffhanger got me hook, line, and sinker. Darn you. I also was hoping there'd be a light at the end of the tunnel, that the guy would get way better or the girl would stand up for herself. Fortunately, the end did make it worth it to read, but it was a journey to get there. I was seething so many times from this story. The reading experience, negative, but I am happy there was a good ending. So, yeah, I don't recommend it. Like, at least it wasn't the worst thing ever, but don't read it. No, don't do it. The next book I read was Jane Doe, A Double Life with a Single Purpose, Revenge. Jane's days at a Minneapolis insurance company are perfectly ordinary. She blends in well, unremarkably pretty in her floral pink dresses, and extra efficient at her low-level job. She's just the kind of woman middle manager Stephen Hepsworth likes, meek, insecure, and willing to defer to a man. No one has any idea who Jane really is. Least of all Stephen, but plain Jane is hiding something, and Stephen's bringing out the worst in her. Nothing can distract Jane from going straight for his heart, allowing herself to be seduced into Stephen's bed, to insinuate herself into his career and his family, and to expose all his dirty secrets. It's time for Jane to dig out everything that matters to Stephen, so she can take it all away, just as he did to her. Now, the reason I read this is I figured it was time to get back into a thriller. I definitely regretted it. This was very critical of religion, but she never acknowledged her own hypocrisy and faults. I would have been fine with her murdering him, but the ending revenge was not it. Total fail. And the last book I read in July was The Devil Wears Black. Maddie Goldblum stitched up a plan to ensure everything in her life was perfect. From a career in fashion to a chic NYC apartment to a pediatrician boyfriend. When her ex, Chase Black, storms back into her life with an outrageous request, her immediate reaction is to refuse him, but he only wants to fulfill his father's last wish. So even though he's the man who broke her heart, playing his fiancé shouldn't be hard, especially if it means she gets to watch the arrogant devil squirm a bit. What ensues is a chain of events that detonates Maddie's life. And when Chase's walls come down, they both are forced to face reality. They say keep your enemies close, but what if your enemy is also the man you love? I picked this up because I saw some really good quotes on Twitter, but this was yet another miss. The guy totally sucked and never treated the girl well. Also, the dichotomy of a wholesome, basic relationship versus their problematic BDSM ? Because they kind of address it, but then nothing happened bedroom-wise, so I don't know if that was just to say things and talk about the difference between the guy she was currently with and her ex. I'm not sure, but it does seem like that's where they were going with it. Versus their BDSM problematic dynamic allegedly being superior was straight trash. I'm moving on to August, and for the most part, it was a month of manga. The first 2 books I read were The Boss's Kitten, Volume 1 and 2. Who knows why I picked this up? It was not my kind of title at all. It was fine, I guess, but it was quite forgettable. Now on to Volume 2. I had no intention of reading this one, but boredom makes you do crazy things. I hated how pushy the guy was. There was nothing of substance here if you ask me. Next book was Defying. Well, let me check my notes on this thing, and I'm probably going to botch the pronunciation, so bear with me. Kurosaki-kun. While the female main character stood up for herself at times, I didn't like her insecurity of her natural self. The male main character was a jerk, and I was bored. The next book I read was Acid Town. This one was quite boring. It doesn't feel like anything happened. Apparently there's supposed to be a romance. There was weird exposition. I was not a fan. But the next one is Tokyo Ghoul Volume 1. I absolutely loved this one. I watched the anime in 2020 and hated it, but the manga is far superior. Nice pacing, conflict is well executed. I definitely want to read more. So those were the 5 manga I read in August, and I do have a couple more titles that I read this month. The next book I read was Naughty Neighbor. As a romance novelist, I'm facing my worst nightmare, writer's block. No matter what I write, I hit delete, knowing it's not worth publishing. The future of my career rests on the success of this new book. So, here I am, looking at Tumblr, desperate for inspiration, when I hear a thumping. Annoyed by the music blaring through the walls, I barge into the hall and bang on my neighbor's door. My very hot, very naughty neighbor, Jake Moreau. Jake is romantic, charming, and the bane of my existence. I need to work, yet he refuses to let me. When he greets me in the hallway, ideas of a sinfully hot hero come to mind. When he takes me out on the town, the words flow as soon as I come home. The more time I spend with this entertaining and quick-witted man, the more I'm able to write. My neighbor is my muse, and before I know it, I slowly become the heroine of my own story, but I don't know how to end it. As I write the epilogue, I'm afraid our romance won't pan out as I've written. Jake Moreau is my hero. Then again, in my life, heroes don't exist. So this is my second Janine Colette book. While I loved A Really Bad Idea back in February this year, this didn't do it for me. I thought the concept sounded interesting, but it wasn't executed well. Multiple behaviors and words the male main character said gave me the ick. It wasn't horrible, but it was disappointing. And like the kind of things they got up to, like there was like this painting scene, like that was like the first thing they did. Like they made some interesting things that I've never seen before in a romance book, but it just was weird rather than like fun, you know? The last book of my summer reads was Born Darkly. He challenged her sanity. She shattered his reality. They dared each other. To the brink of madness, a dark and twisted maze awaits criminal psychologist London Noble when she falls for her patient, convicted serial killer Grayson Pierce Sullivan. As she unravels the traps, her sanity tested with each game, she's forced to acknowledge the true evil in the world around her. I picked this up because of some good quotes online, and people saying this was like the Mindfuck series. Nope. This was boring. No chemistry, no action, no excitement. There were bad messages, and I'm not talking morally, just dumb. I definitely regret reading. It was weird too. It was almost like she was interested in the guy Jigsaw. Why does it exist? And for all the books I talked about, I do have my spread of June, July, and August on my channel that you can definitely check out after watching the rest of this video, so be sure to check it out. So I had a pretty solid summer of reading. 27 books. Like, that's really, really good. So I am happy with the number. The quality of it, not so much. You know, you try your best. Now I'd love to hear what kind of books you guys were reading this summer. And do you agree or disagree on some of these books I mentioned? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, comment below, and if you liked this video and would like to see more bookish content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time. Bye!